Mabuhay, Kamustika, welcome. How are you? This is Bob from Love Beyond the Sea. You're in for a treat today. You're going to hear the best video that you've ever seen. It's called Bragging Doesn't Impress Your Filipina. Tell me what you brag about and I'll tell you what you lack. That Spanish proverb is the topic of today's video, bragging. It's like boasting that you never fail, but what you really may be saying is that you don't challenge yourself and can't handle failure. Subscribe to Love Beyond the Sea, where I endeavor to help foreigners wade through the process of finding a Filipina and having a good marriage. Share the video so more men can find love beyond the sea. How to communicate with your Filipina wife is a live stream I will link for you, and this topic is a viewer request, part of a series about how not to communicate with your Filipina wife. And so we're going to talk about bragging, which is giving yourself too much credit. Someone has said a good deed is not a good deed if you brag about it. There's just something about bragging that turns people off, and that includes the Filipina in your life. So let's talk about boasting or bragging. This is related to being selfish, talking about oneself. Is anyone impressed when they hear someone brag about themselves? The Bible says to let another man praise you and not your own lips. If my wife compliments me on something, that is better than me reminding her of something I've done. I want my wife to hear many compliments from me about her, and for her to compliment me when I've earned it. That's only natural. It's also possible that bragging about something is done to get confirmation when it really isn't deserved. Boasting or bragging is just a poor way to communicate. A braggart wants attention. Rather than bragging, and potentially a little falsely, it would be better for me to simply say to my wife that I hope she notices the many little things I do for her. That's better than exploding if I don't think she notices them. I think bragging is rooted in being insecure. If you're a strong person, you don't need to brag or boast. Bragging can have a negative impact on your Filipina because it can make her feel less important, like you are better than she is. If my wife hears me brag about something, she might take that to mean that she is deficient in some way. I don't even brag about America where we live right now because I don't think that's wise, considering my wife has great affection for the Philippines, as she should. If you find yourself given to bragging, it is helpful to try to focus instead on building others up, making them feel special and important. I am sure my wife loves to hear compliments from me. She doesn't have to boast. I can see how valuable she is to me, and I make sure to tell her as often as I can. It is possible some viewers could even get the impression that I am bragging or boasting about having my wife. But that isn't really true. For one thing, I was without her for 30 long years, as I just couldn't find anyone to start a relationship with, so that humbled me plenty. And for another, I am trying to illustrate to my viewers that they should hold their Filipina in high regard as I do mine. Now, a little comment from a website I will link for you. They say, you see, jealousy is wanting what someone else has, and bragging, boasting, is trying to make others jealous of what you have. Jealousy puts others down, bragging puts ourselves up. I do not want to say anything that could be construed by my wife as also making her feel small. I don't want her to be impressed with me. I want her to know that I am impressed with her. I don't want to repel her in any way, and I would prefer that she sees me as humble. Probably the situation a foreigner would be most susceptible to brag to a Filipino would be when he writes a profile for her to see what he's about, who he is. He is the one that gets to write this profile, not someone else, where it might look quite different. Would you invite someone that knows you well to write your own online dating profile for you? Probably not, but I think it's a good idea to write a profile and then show it to someone who knows you well just to get their opinion. During his initial interactions with a Filipina, a man will want to talk about things that he is most comfortable with, which might be his accomplishments. He needs to be factual without overblowing it, without sounding like he's bragging. When I wrote mine, I was very transparent about my desire for a wife and wasn't shy about mentioning that I had been alone for a long time. I also stated that I wanted to be a good husband, a godly husband, and accomplish His will of marriage and do it His way. And I don't think it came off as being needy or self-aggrandizing. I would recommend, very much so, if you haven't written a profile, that you be honest, that you don't give the impression you are so wonderful that this Filipina would be lucky to have you. She would rightly wonder, how such an impressive man just wasn't able to find someone. I have seen profiles of other men, went on free dating sites just to see how they were writing their profiles, and some of those profiles were so glorious, you'd have to wonder how in the world that kind of catch was even still available. While you want it to be appealing to a Filipina who knows nothing about you yet, it wouldn't hurt to have some indication of imperfection, of humility, so she feels that you are a real person who isn't perfect. She is essentially interested in someone who can provide for her materially and emotionally, and if she is a Christian, she will want someone who can provide for her spiritually. And being proud is related to all this. This could be related to boasting and talking a lot about yourself. Again, this is a quality no one likes, being proud. At least not that I know of. If a woman hears her husband say things that she considers proud or arrogant, she will resent that. Okay, let's say that, they say women like men who are confident, and that is different than being arrogant, overconfident, or proud. That is definitely a turnoff. I think it's better to communicate humility, which tends to put people at ease. I think we all like to be around humble people if we can find humble people. Everything I have from God, and that includes my love beyond the sea.